Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I just thought I'd post this short video. I meant to do more videos in December, but it got really busy. It was good but busy, so I thought I would just put this on. Yesterday I was playing with some watercolors because I was watching Dee Dee Willingham and Janet Merle Young, and they were swatching some Daniel Smith watercolors, and I thought, oh, I really want to play with my watercolors now. So I grabbed them out. I didn't really know what to do, so I ended up doing this long swatch, like a line. I just kind of went in and out. I just followed my watercolor palette of my Daniel Smiths, and I have a picture of that. Well, I'll put it at the end of the video if you want to see what colors those were. And then I thought it was sort of reminded me of a Zentangle, the way it was like looping around. So I thought, well, let's make it kind of 3D like a Zentangle. So I decided to add a gray background. And what I did for that, so it would be sort of modeled looking, is I used infusions, Black Nights, I think, because it has a lot of different colors in it. So I've pre-wet the paper, which is a 9 by 12 inch Fabriano cold press 25% cotton watercolor paper, but just use whatever you have on hand. And you can see when I spray it and wet it. So I wet the paper, I put the sprinkles down, I have a little hole poked in the lid there, and then I wet it with my brush, and it has walnut ink and other pigments in it, so it sort of activates really randomly. You can see this next one I'm doing, it's got more of the brown from the walnut ink. And I just like that randomness to it, so I just kept going, and I added the little, you can see the little shadow I added underneath the line that was going across to give it that 3D look. And I'll be adding a little bit more shadows and highlights later. And what I did was, after it was wet, I just sort of blotted it with a crumpled up tissue just to give it more of a mottled look. I had a few spots that had water had dripped on it, and I liked how it looked, so I added more splatters of water and some more water spots, and then here I'm going to blot it up to give it even more sort of mottled look, so it almost looks like granite. And then I'm going to use these Neocolor 2 crayon, water soluble crayons, to add more shadows to the underneath portions of all the lines. And if you don't have Neocolor 2s, you can certainly use other water-soluble things like water-soluble markers or water-soluble watercolor crayons, watercolor pencils, just whatever you want, just to give it a little extra shadow. And by the way, the infusions aren't permanent, so they do blend in nicely. They're not, they still move. You can like adjust them. And you could use, for the background, if you don't have infusions, you could certainly use acrylic paint. You could use other watercolors. I just thought this was an easy way to add a modeled background, but you could do whatever you like. And that's the thing, was like, I wanted to play with color. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just did a swatch, and I thought, well, let's just make it 3D. Let's just play with it some more. And it wasn't a perfect swatching. You can see and the bottom of the red part, the blue bled into there, and I liked it. Just embrace the imperfections, you know. Here I'm adding a highlight to the top surface of each area, and I'm using a white Posca pen. If you don't have a white Posca pen, again, you can use like a white gel pen. You could use a white pencil crayon. And then I'm adding some texture here. So I'm using the Neocolor 2s. Again, you could use, markers, like water-soluble markers, and or you could use your watercolors. Speaking of watercolors, I mean, this was a Daniel Smith swatching, but you could use any watercolors that you have. You don't have to use, I used all the colors in my tin, but you could just use some of your favorite colors. You could just use like blue to purple, and do whatever shape you want. So it's just a way to get kind of free, and just I just enjoy playing with color, and it's just fun. I could cut this down into little ATC size 3x4 cards. I could cut it in different sections. I could throw it in the garbage. It doesn't really matter. It was the process of doing it that I found really meditative, and I put on some relaxing music, and it was just really fun. So here I'm just adding more Neocolors, and I start off with little marks, and eventually I make some of the drops, they turn like into droplets. I started making some of them bigger, and I go back and I fix some of the other ones. And I'm just transitioning the colors to go along with, what color I have in the stripe. So it's sort of like a gradual change in the color. So, and then I do fix where this yellow one crosses. I do end up going in, and you can see I kind of fixed it to make it look like it was matched up with the other side. I don't know if that makes sense, but and then this part here, this is what I was talking about, where you embrace the imperfections. So here there's this little blip of blue in between the red and the pink, and instead of getting upset about it, whatever, I just sort of incorporated it, made this sort of an area of interest where there was just a bit more colors that interacted with each other. And sometimes I'm, adding water, and I'm using a tissue to lift up some of the paint that's down there. These Neo Color 2s, they're fairly opaque, and they're very water soluble, like they dissolve really easily. But like I said, you could use any sort of water soluble media you want. And yeah, and it was kind of a neat exercise to see what colors I like together, like that brown going across the red. I thought, well, that's kind of a neat combination. I could use that in a painting sometime. Or how the purple on the left with the teal blue, how they play nicely together. So it's just a good exercise, a good way to just sort of free up your creativity. You could do, instead of a continuous swatch, you could do different shapes. You could do circles, you could do little clouds or blobs. It's really endless. So while I'm, continuing here, I'm just going to talk about New Year's. So I only did one video in December. I really meant to do more. But I thought I'd pop on and let you all know that I will be participating in a New Year's Eve Streamathon. I'm actually going to be on New Year's Day, but Mary Atelier, I will link her below. She organized a Streamathon with a bunch of streamers. It's going to be lots of fun. If you have some free time, either New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, just go check out her channel on her community page. She has a link for a schedule and a link for all the streamers. And they're going to be available for replay as well. So if you see someone on there that you'd love to see, but you can't make it because of the time, I think everybody's going to just post theirs to YouTube so you can, follow along later. Here, I think, yeah, more of the same, just playing. Oh, here's the final one. So what I ended up doing is I added some texture, additional little pieces of color using these oil pastels. So I just I had my camera turned off at that point, so I'm just going to demo here how I did it. I just used different colors that to kind of intermingle, and I'd put little marks, and then I used my heat gun to sort of melt them down. And what's nice about the oil pastels is you could put like a yellow, for example. Here I'm going to put yellow on the red, and it's going to show up. And it just kind of adds a bit more interest. Yeah, and I just kind of did it randomly. Here I'm going to add the heat gun. If you don't have oil pastels, you could use wax crayons and a heat gun to melt it. Or you could just use pencil crayons, or you could use paint pens, just whatever, just to add a bit more texture, visual texture to it. So here it is, just melting, and that sort of, I find it kind of seals it. Here's the finished piece, you could call it. So if I hadn't added the oil pastels, it would really be a watercolor piece, but because I added the oil pastels, I called it more of a mixed media piece. And I'm just doing a slow flyby. I really like that section there with the different browns and whites and blacks. It's kind of like a neutral area. And that could be a jumping off point for another piece. So this is just a fun little exercise. Here I'm just showing how you can add the white to highlight it. And I like how the pinks and the browns go together, and these purples. I just love color. So this was just fun to just play and sit down and play. I probably spent a couple hours doing this, but it was lots of fun. And here's that little texture, like that little bloom part. And trying to show some of the paints have a shimmer to them. Here's a yellow orange section. And I feel like the shadow added to the edge really, gives it that nice 3D look. So I'll probably do more. Oh yeah, don't forget to sign and date your work. I have my little signature there. I think I posted on Instagram without signing it, but that's okay. And blue's my favorite. Blue's my favorite color. Where they cross there, I really like that. So anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little short mixed media piece. If you want to join me on New Year's, my streaming time is New Year's Day at 10:30 Eastern time, and I'm on for an hour and a half, so I'm on till noon. But there's lots of other great streamers, and I'm gonna just finish off with this shot of my Daniel Smith colors. If you want to screenshot it, if you like any of those colors. Thanks so much for watching. I hope everybody has a wonderful, safe New Year's, and we'll see you all in 2022. Bye now.